Anybody recognise that thing behind? Oh, God, what's that say? What does it say?
Battery level low.
So here we are again. Behind us, blow if not. Now this is the third time been here in perhaps a month or 6 weeks. What brings us here again? Well, today, I'll tell you later. Expeditionary, scientific and biological expedition. You'll find out more later. WhyLang Tarn. Well, here we are. We've discovered the source of the Great Lang Tarn River, okay, and Dr. Poppet Livingstone, I presume. How do you do? How do you do? Right, that's enough of a history. What's brought us here again? Well, we're here about 5 or 6 weeks ago. That's in a previous video with the Avatar Dragonflies, and since that occasion when we were here we thought, I wonder, could this be the smallest named tarn in the Lake District? So there is another contender, I forget the name of it now, but because there are no measurements provided, who knows for sure? So this is a scientific expedition, scientific and biological, because we're going to do some dragonfly stuff later, and we thought, let's measure it, let's make it empirical. We'll measure the tarn, length, width and depth, and then it'll stand up there, and if anybody can produce evidence to say, no, this tarn is smaller, well, they can measure it, produce the figures, and then we'll know for sure. So that's it, scientific expedition. Now Poppet's going to walk to the far end of the tarn. I'll walk there with her. I shall unreel this 30-metre tape, and I'm hoping it's long enough. Might not be. Yeah, I think it will be. And we'll measure its length. I'll write it down. Then we shall measure its width. I'll write it down. And then I shall wade out. I've come up here in my wellies. Special. We'll wade out to the middle of the tarn and give an indication of depth. Now we think the tarn is a little bit fuller, deeper that is, than it was when we were here 5 or 6 weeks ago when it was dry and sunny, because it has been raining a bit during the week for several weeks now. So although the perimeter of the tarn is no bigger, I don't think, it certainly is 1 or 2 inches deeper than it was. Anyway, we're here to set the record straight, put the figures down on paper, so to speak. So bear with us, we're going to do some measuring. Meters, 12, 20. Oh, I might run out. Ha! Tape might not be long enough. 25. No, it's gonna run out.
Where's it to 25? Can you not?
Turns out the tape measure isn't long enough. It's longer than 30 metres, so we've got to improvise now. Okay. Right. I'm going to measure from the end to this point, and then Poppet's going to walk round and take the measure to the other end. We'll see what it all amounts to.
Which bit here? That's
A bit further round, what you think might be the longest part? The longest?
well, it's there.
Is it?
No, there.
Okay, that no, yep. Alright, 0, 1.
Yep.
Just pulling it out of the water. Just pull it out of the water for a second. Okay. Alright, zeroed.
Yep.
27.5.
Right.
I'll just write that down. 27.5. Hello, you're waving at me.
No.
What are you doing?
All the midges or whatever they are attacking me.
Right, I'm now just going to do a depth.
Right.
I've got a zip tie on the stick. Well, we got there in the end. Now, in the water there, I've got the pole down in the water and fastened this zip tie at what I thought might be about the deepest point. So how deep is it? I'm just going to measure that now. $380 millimeters. 380 millimeters. 380. Spot on. So just make a note of that. Measurements to the flag, because the tape isn't long enough to do it in one hit. So what have we got there? 6, 5, 7, 7 is 14, carry 1, 44.56 metres along. Depth 380 millimeters. Now all we've got to do is the width, and then it's quantified and defined.
Again, do you then now?
No, just chuck it by the bags. Let's just do the width now.
What we're going to do.
Good man.
Hello there.
You're claiming it for the Queen and country, are you?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yes.
Quite right too.
Well, I just wondered.
As long as you keep those Argentinians out, it's alright.
We're just videoing over there.
Alright, we spotted.
Oh, no, not at all. No, it all adds to the... But what we're doing, we thought, is this the smallest named tarn in the Lake District?
Yeah, well,
and so we thought we'd quantify.
Is it named?
It's called Lang Tarn,
Alright, fair enough.
which is the ideal place to come Christmas Eve, where you can sing Old Lang Tarn.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
And I've seen it dried up, which is what we do quite often. I've seen it completely empty.
Oh, have you now?
Yeah.
What, with like cracked buffalo mud in the middle?
That's
sort
the
of?
one.
Yeah.
Just a few stones. There are some stepping stones in there somewhere.
Yes, yeah.
So,
Fun. The Queen and Country.
Queen and country.
All for our own
As long as you
pleasures.
don't get an Argentinian gunboat, we're alright.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, I do, thank you. Right.
That there, Poppet?
Yeah.
Wherever you think the widest bit. .4. Just write it down. Right. So these are the the empirical findings from Lang Tarn. What's the date today? What's the date? Does it say on your watch?
No.
Oh.
It's wrong.
It's something like the 23rd of September. Is that right? 24th? I haven't got my blinking watch on either.
Mine's on the 15th, and that's not right.
No.
Don't know.
Around about the 23rd, 24th. So the findings are, I present the scientific findings. The overall length is 44.56 metres. The depth is 380 millimetres. The width is 22.4 metres. Okay, that's it. That's it. It's been defined, quantified. Nobody can argue now with those dimensions. But, like I say, if someone else wants to present evidence to say that another tarn is smaller or not, then that's all well and good. That's all we're doing is just quantifying it. Okay, splendid. We'll do a bit more video in a bit about dragonflies and stuff because they're still buzzing around. Well, thank you, Poppet, for assisting me with these scientific endeavours. This then is the outfall end of Lang Tarn. I'm standing on it just here. Hardly a raging cataract. But this is, yes, Lang Tarn. The outfall of which irrigates the lands between the Great Coniston Water and the Limpopo River. Marvellous. So, yeah, just before we got into scientific measuring mode, we just had a plod around the tarn to get the measure of it, as it were. And as we came up this end here, we saw 3 or 4 dragonflies. One huge blue one, like we saw 5 or 6 weeks ago, you know, the avatar dragonflies. But then some smaller ones. Now one of these, this is important, this is the biological part of this expedition. One of the smaller ones had what appeared to be an extended body. And what it was it actually just come out of its pupation stage this very day. And part of its chrysalis stroke pupae was still hanging from the tail end of its body. And then as we were watching and it was flapping about, you know, amongst the reeds, one of the bigger ones, you know, the big blue one, came along and sort of jollied it into action. And as it sort of as it was startled by the big one coming along, suddenly the rest of this chrysalis shell just plopped into the water and the dragonfly was free of its encumbrance and buzzed off, you know, as we do. Now a big one, whilst we've been doing this measuring thing, has been sort of circling the lake, you know, doing its regular tour of the parish, I suppose. So there is at least still one big one up here, and like I say, 2 or 3 little ones, hatchlings today probably, because I believe, I don't know anything about this, I'm just gibbering, I think they live as like water nymphs. Is that the right word? Do you know what I mean? They're aquatic until they begin to emerge and then they fly. That sort of thing. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's interesting. And like I say, 5 or 6 weeks later from when there was maybe half a dozen big ones, there's still at least one big one kicking around and some hatchlings emerging as we speak. So that's it. I think we'll close this, at least this topic today. There's a few other things we'll look at on the way back, and maybe open up the video cam if there's anything to report. Right, so Mule and Pop It out. Pop it. Ha! We're just coming back from the WhyLang Tarn measuring expedition. Notice this feature behind me here. Like glacial rounding. In this little gulch. I'll just turn the camera around into the forward mode. So up there. And it forms one flank of this sort of defile, or gully, through which, I imagine, glacial ice might once have flowed, knocking all the rough spots off that flank there and leaving it smooth and worn. At its foot is a tiny body of water. This isn't a tarn or anything, it's just like a spring head. But I forgot to mention earlier, if you look to the north, now looking to the north, all day it's been this sort of yellow, gloomy sky, you know, which gives a very funny light. It's, what time is it, Pop It, now?
4:45.
4:45 now. It's been like this all day though. You know, it's got, the light has got like a dusk-like quality where you don't know whether to put your headlights on or not, kind of feeling, you know. And the yellowness of the sky is what I'm sure Turner would have described as being sulphuresque. You know, that yellowy, vapid hue. Yeah, so we'll just have a little explore around here before getting back down to the tin tent, or the shepherd's hut on wheels. Where we have our brews and refreshments. Yeah, just forgot to say, why the hell are we so interested in glacial smoothed rocks, big ones like that? Well, the thing is, you see, it's always been a quest to find the definitive knickerbocker breaker that Roger used in Swallowdale. So, you know, we're not a million miles from Coniston Lake. It doesn't really seem like a terrain that lends itself to camping, as in the book Swallowdale by Arthur Ransom. But every time I see a feature like that, I think, oh, well, I wonder, could that be what Arthur Ransom was writing about when Roger tore his breeches sliding down the, what do you call it, Pop It?
Knickerbocker breaker.
That's it, the knickerbocker breaker. That's why we're interested, you see. Yeah, this very weekend it's been like, I'm pretty sure it's the VMC Lakeland weekend So all day there's been old British bikes going up that hill and over these fells. Yeah, it's been good. Of course we've been occupied doing other stuff, so by the time I'd got my camera out, in many instances they'd popped over the hill too late. But last weekend we were looking over a nearby settlement called Stone Walls, ancient settlement, and last weekend was the great Cumbrian vintage tractor ride out, and that was about 100 tractors went by as we were mooching over the fell. You know, old Massey Fergusons and proper old tractors, you know. So this is the spot for motorsports. Forget Snetterton and all that. Subathwaite, common. Tractors, motorbikes, I don't know what will be next week. Vintage cars probably.